Hello lovely people, welcome back to another video. I hope you're all doing very well. Today I am going to be wrapping up the 8 books I read in August. When I was picking out the books on my shelves to put into this video, I didn't really realise how much I actually did end up reading in August. 8 books for me is less than what I used to read a month. However, I was getting to a point where I was reading so much a month I was forgetting what I was reading, and also I think that there's a real weight in creating content around books to read certain books or read a certain amount of books, and I realised a while ago that I couldn't keep doing that. So 8 books is now about an average month for me, but I just, looking back at the month, didn't realise how many I'd actually read. But also, I have read a lot of very highly rated books. I have got to a point where I'm very good at DNFing books. I'm very good at sensing what kind of a book I fancy and only picking up a book if I really fancy it, which is why I've kind of changed the way that Fictionary works as a TBR, and in the sense of it's kind of more of a guide, and I'm not necessarily going to make myself read or like have to read any of the books that I've got on that TBR. Obviously reading is ultimately for fun, the TBR is for fun, but I am definitely kind of merging mood reading with a TBR, which is working quite well for me and definitely resulting in some very highly rated books, especially this month. So I have 8 books to wrap up. I'm going to try and do this in a semi-speedy wrap-up way, we'll see how that goes, but I'm just going to jump right in with my first book. So the first book I finished in August is Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong. This is an arc that comes out on the 27th of September. So this is a spin-off series to the original duology by Chloe Gong, which was These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends. The original duology was a 1920s Romeo and Juliet retelling set in Shanghai. This book takes place 10 years after the events of that book. We see the kind of aftermath of what happened in that book, but 10 years later. So we're following one of the characters from that original duology, and we do see flickers of other characters too in this book. I really enjoyed that we had that familiarity with the characters and we brought them into this new story. This definitely continues on the political theme that the first book had, or the first series had. I would say for me this one felt a little bit more political and therefore was a little bit of a heavier read. I did take a while to read this one, but that was because it was crammed with lots of really interesting information, lots of interesting plot developments. There was a kind of mystery element here that people were trying to figure out who was causing all the issues that is the kind of stem of the plot of the book. I thought that was really interesting the way Chloe Gong took real events and made them part of this fantasy timeline. The whole thing was really clever and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Nothing More to Tell by Karen M. McManus. This is another arc and this one actually comes out today, so you can pick this one up now. I think Karen M. McManus is one of the best YA thriller writers. She just has such a good way of threading the story through but without making each of her stories feel the same. There's definitely distinctive differences between them all, and I like the fact that they reference each other as well, like they all know of the previous thriller stories, which is really cool. So this book follows a main character who has come back to her hometown after leaving for quite a few years. When she initially left, there was actually a murder of one of her favourite teachers and the case was closed, apparently solved, except she didn't really believe the outcome of the case and she wants to now try and dig it back up and reinvestigate it with the help of a show that she signed up to be an intern for that looks into true crime cases. So it's got a kind of Good Girl's Guide to Murder vibe about it, and I really enjoyed that aspect because I love that series very much. I love it when the main character is someone that already has an interest in true crime and in solving crimes. I think this one did a really good job of weaving out the mystery and it went in many different directions. It kept surprising me. I really liked it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Then for a special reading vlog, I read Persuasion by Jane Austen. If you have not checked the vlog out, I will pop a link up here, but I basically wanted to read this book so I could then watch the new Netflix film adaptation and compare the two and share my thoughts on both of them. This is a classic romance that follows Anne Elliot, who after breaking off her engagement many years ago, comes back into contact with the man that she initially was in love with and is kind of forced into this society of people pushing her in different directions, the expectation of marriage, people around her being married and having kids, and where she kind of fits into that at the same time as her family kind of going through a little bit of a tough time. It's your typical Jane Austen romance. The slow burn element was definitely there for it. I feel like I wanted a little bit more from this. I think I wanted more from the characters. I did really enjoy this story and I think that Jane Austen is a fantastic storyteller. Obviously she weaves the stories absolutely beautifully, but I just wanted a little bit more from the characters here because I felt like from what I've read previously from Jane Austen and Northanger Abbey and also from adaptations I've seen in the past, such as the new Emma adaptation. Can you call it new still? I'm gonna call it new still. I felt like the main characters had a bit more oomph to them, whereas Anne in this book just felt like she didn't have that oomph and we were kind of we were more seeing her through other people's eyes than we were her own, whereas I feel like if we saw her through her own eyes we would have got a bit more of that oomph. And obviously I know that this is all very deliberate from Jane Austen and is all kind of crafting who we see her as a character, but for me, I just wanted a bit more. I think I have to acknowledge as well, this isn't normally the type of book that I would go for, so it's not really overly the kind of thing that I would get too excited about reading. However, I did look forward to reading this because I would like to read a couple more classics. I liked it, I just didn't absolutely love it, and I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan. This is a beautiful fable story that stems across quite a few years. This follows our main character who lives on the moon with her mum. Her mum has been exiled there to become the moon goddess, and our main character goes to try and free her mum, and in doing so goes on quite a large journey of her own. This is a fantasy / romance, and I think also kind of a little bit of a coming of age type of thing in terms of how our main character goes from this isolated, very different way of living to suddenly being able to be her own person and what that means for her. This was absolutely beautiful. The setting was absolutely stunning. I really enjoy books that move through time a little bit over the plot, and this definitely did that. We definitely saw our character have a lot of character development. I really enjoyed the way that it built up this kind of thread of romance throughout it as well, and the action and how that was all centric around that romantic theme as well. I'm really intrigued to see where the second book will take this story after the ending we got from this one, so I'm excited to see that. I really like this one. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Then I finally read Cersei by Madeline Miller. What? I have been saying I'm going to read this book for so long. The hype has definitely daunted me to read this because everybody loved it. I have read Song of Achilles, and I read that maybe in 2018. I liked Song of Achilles, but I didn't love it as much as everyone else loved it. And it makes me feel like maybe I need to reread it and see if maybe it was the time that I read it. But it did make me worried that I wouldn't like Cersei. So I picked Cersei up in August. Cersei follows an exiled witch who is living on this island, and it's about who she comes across during her time on this island, who she interacts with, the stories and the adventures that she has, was weaving in all these other mythology stories as well. And I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. I loved it. As much as I'm kicking myself for not reading it sooner because I enjoyed it, I think it's one that I enjoyed because I waited. This is another one where you can see really fantastic character development, and Cersei certainly comes a really long way from the start of the book to the end. And I just thought it was so good. It was very beautiful, the descriptions were stunning, the lyrical writing, whilst also not being daunting, it was brilliant, beautiful. So glad I've read it. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Now, I went on a bit of a Greek mythology reading vlog theme thing for the next few books, and obviously Cersei. I created a reading Greek mythology vlog. You can check that out up here. And one of the books I read for that vlog is Olympus Volume 2 by Rachel Smythe. This is a fantastic graphic novel series. It is a romance between Persephone and Hades. I love this series so much. I really enjoy the interactions between the two. I enjoy that we get to see a little bit of their internal monologue side of things. I think that makes it really good fun, and this one was just as good as the first book. Obviously it just kind of continues out and it's just kind of split into these hardback editions, and I know that you can get more on the web, but I really do like reading them in this print format. I love the illustrations. I love the different colours used for each of the kind of family of gods. I think it's so clever and so much fun and so funny. There's a lot of moments in this that made me laugh. I really liked it, and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Another book I read for the Reading Greek Mythology inspired books is Daughter of Darkness by Elizabeth and Catherine Kaur. This follows a group of people who work for the House of Hades, and they are trying to earn their freedom by going to the underworld for Orpheus to try and bring his wife Eurydice back from the dead. This is quite a dark book, I would say, both visually and plot-wise, in terms of the stuff that these characters have to go through to get to the underworld, in contrast to reading Lore Olympus, where getting to the underworld is like literally just so quick and easy. This is definitely not those things. This has a fantastic group of people that have different skills and different attitudes coming together to create this team and achieve this task, and I really like that side of it. I love it when you see a group of people come together, and I think when I was reading the blurb and it said that it's a fighter, a scholar, a singer and a thief, I just really enjoyed the idea of this group of people together. I think that they came together really well, and whilst this book was very dark and had some very low moments for the characters, I think it was really good fun and certainly had quite a lot of dry moments of humour to it as well, which I really enjoyed. So I really liked this and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And finally, slipping in on the final day of August, I have finished The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. This is the second book to Once Upon a Broken Heart and is a second series from the Caraval world, so it's set in the same universe as the Caraval world and does reference moments of that series. A lot of people have asked whether you can read this series without having read Caraval. I would say if you want to read the Caraval series, then no, because you will spoil yourself for what happens at the end of that series. However, if you are never going to read it, then yes, you could read this first. It would make sense without reading Caraval first. You'd miss the meaning behind some of the moments, I think. So it would be a shame not to have read Caraval first, I think. Also, it's a fantastic introduction to the magic system of this world, and you have crossover characters occasionally as well. So yeah, it would make more sense, but you can understand this series without Caraval as a base. I love this book so much. It's so fantastical. The world building, the magic system is brilliant. Everything is so clearly very visual. I love the relationship between Evangeline and Jax. I think that they have such a fantastic love-hate relationship going on. I love that we as a reader never really know if we can trust Jax or not. I think that it makes him a really fun, unreliable character to read about, and I definitely think it gives this series a real spark for having him as one of the main characters. I really liked the adventure that we went on in this book because it felt very fairy tale-esque. Everything in this is inspired in some way by fairy tale stories, it feels, and I really liked that aspect too. I think it made it all the more fun and the magic system all the more fantastical. I really liked it and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. So that is all the books I read in August. See, I had a lot of 4 to 4.5 ratings. I didn't have any 5-star. Can't remember the last time I actually had a 5-star read was. Maybe Babel? I'm not sure, but I think I had a really good reading month and I really enjoyed the books I read. I'm really excited for September. I have already read one of the books on my September TBR in August. I read Ballad right at the end of August, obviously, and I did put that on my September TBR, but I really fancied reading it and I didn't want to feel like I couldn't pick it up just because it was on this current TBR for September, so I've read that one early. Yes, that is my 8-book August wrap up. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please do give it a thumbs up. Comment down below how many books you read in August. You can also subscribe to see more of my face on your feed, and link down below you will find a link to my online shop and also my Patreon where I do lots of extra content. Thank you so much for watching, keep smiling and stay positive.